You should watch Warhammer. Uh, 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 I'm gonna be real. I don't really know what Warhammer is. Isn't that the one with lots of figurines and people paint them? I thought it was just like people were really excited about it. It like D&D, right? Like D&D, but with little figures. But guys get very artsy about it. No? And then they get very personally attached to their own little, I don't know, OCs or armies. Yeah? Is that more or less accurate? Am I gonna regret this?
As someone who doesn't necessarily serve the Omnissiah, but someone who can appreciate them, you will not be getting my legs today, as I will be replacing them with various things depending on which faction we are currently talking about, to add a little bit more context and possible comedy to whatever the hell I am currently doing.
Nice skirt.
So, hello everybody, my name is Bricky, and this is going to be a long video and a large project that has been going on for quite some time. This is, I need two hands for this. This is every single Warhammer 40k race in kind of a nutshell, explained, a little bit of explanation, a little bit of lore, a little bit of talking about the tabletop, mostly lore, what they're all about, and also a little bit of background for those of you who just have no clue what Warhammer 40,000 is. Now you see, Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000 is a universe people hear plenty of, but don't know a whole lot about. They see, oh, there's these dudes in big power armor with chainsaw swords, and they got these big old green orcs, and there's some bugs over there, and everyone calls these guys weebs, and then there's these spiky bitches over here, and I don't get it.
That's me.
I don't
That's
understand. Where do I start? Well, this video is particularly for you, or for those of you who have a little bit of knowledge, but you're kind of curious about each of the different races and factions in Warhammer. So overall, the Warhammer universe is
Isn't that the player base?
When it comes to lore and background, and each different faction is so different with the things that they believe in, and some are human, some are transhuman, like where they all have all these crazy ass electronics on them. You've got aliens and you've got the chaos factions, and there's so much to entail that I decided to embark on this project to tell you what each and every single one of them is about, and what the Warhammer universe is about as well, to give at least a little bit of an intro to this extremely bloated but very, very enjoyable
just a brief explanation, am I right?
So I will be explaining every single faction in the Warhammer 40k universe, at least all the factions you can play as, and some smaller factions here and there. I will not be discussing absolutely everything in it, because that is a little bit much, and I'm not going to go too mega deep into the lore. I'm going to give you a pretty solid overview of each of the different factions.
When he puts no blah blah blah, I'm just like,
and we'll discuss a little bit of the tabletop as well, in case you were curious about that.
Wait, this is not even related to the tabletop.
We are discussing the Imperium of Man, because that takes up a fat chunk of Warhammer lore.
What? Is that just not mankind?
What is Warhammer 40,000?
It's separate?
Well, the 40,000 starts off is the year 40,000. The 41st millennium, that's where it takes place, is in the year 40,000, 41,000 AD.
Mankind are the bad guys?
You're already more knowledgeable.
Are we the baddies?
Let me read you a quote.
So where does the hammer come in?
Everything blows. And it blows fucking hard. Warhammer is probably the most dark and depressing universes ever in fiction, or at least like top 3. Everything is so
good for men's mental health,
destructive, or overpowered that it all kind of ends up canceling itself out. It's like Dota. War rages across the galaxy.
I don't know anything about Dota.
Interstellar travel is only possible due to sacrificing 1,000 souls a day to a rotting carcass of a man who you believe to be your god. Demonic gods and just demons tear open the fabric of reality on a whim. Other Xenos or even other humans end up killing each other in untold billions across the galaxy. It is a time of unending war, slaughter, and a bloodbath amongst
So I'm waiting for the hammer.
Planets are deemed unrecoverable and are completely destroyed on a whim.
That looks like terraforming.
Everything sucks.
Terraforming
but
card.
that's like the charm of it. See, everything in Warhammer is evil. But being evil is kind of fun. Like, humanity, in its own right, is a xenophobic, prejudice, and religious zealot group
So
that
not much
kill
has
each other
changed.
just as much as they kill all of their enemies. And they're like mid to high tier evil on the evil scale of Warhammer. Nobody is good. No matter who you are, everyone is some flavor, some color of evil. Whoever you pick,
Nice.
you are going to be the bad guy. But that's the
My
fun
dream.
of it. Because being the bad guy is badass. Villains
Exactly.
are cool. They look cool. They got cool outfits. They got
gets
cool
it.
weapons. They got cool armies. Villains are cool, man. And
They
when
are.
everyone is a villain, everyone is pretty cool. That's what makes this so charming, is that everyone can be the bad guy. So let's start
If
off
evil, why
talking
cool?
about the main bad guy, quote unquote, the Imperium of Man.
His hair, whack. His gear, whack.
The Imperium of
His hair,
Man is
whack.
the main empire
Okay, so I
of
get
the
it.
human
It's a-
race.
he's a
All of
carrion.
humanity
That's why
is
there's a
under
bird
this one
symbol.
flag called the Imperium. And about 10,000 years ago, there was a man. He was the emperor.
There was
the
a
emperor
man.
of mankind, a 10-foot tall psychic
10-foot tall?
demigod who led humanity across the stars to colonize tons and tons of worlds, create superhuman soldiers, and really bring humanity into a new age.
You're Gary
This
Sue?
man, the emperor of mankind, was a psyker. And a psyker is like a magician of sorts. In the
I'm a
world of
magician.
40k, there is the warp, the immaterium, kind of like hell, but sort of like a purgatory dimension of hell. And a psyker is someone who can take that power and manifest it through their mind to use it to do stuff, like witchcraft stuff, magician stuff,
me!
spells, and lots of other things, but
use
we don't want to get too
power
into
from the
that.
witch realm.
The emperor, big boy psyker, top tier, A+, maybe even S.
plus.
Now, the emperor created a bunch of sons. Yes, created a bunch of sons known as the Primarchs. He created 18 Primarchs to have them lead all of the different legions of humanity to the different stars and planets to help colonize and bring it out. These Primarchs are basically like little versions of the Emperor. Not all of them are psychers, but a lot of them are very, very powerful, and they lead his special Space Marine legions. Then this
is like
big
you get evil
clusterfuck happened
angels?
called the Horus Heresy, where the Emperor's
Horus
favorite son,
mentioned.
the Primarch, Horus, ended up joining Chaos and leading 9 of the 18, half of his Primarchs directly to Earth to fight down the Emperor himself. Now, if you're wondering what Chaos is, remember what I mentioned earlier, the warp, that immaterium, the hellish place? In there relies the 4 Chaos gods. Imagine like Satan and 3 other Satans. The warp being kind of evil, those Chaos gods, that's the reason. And so those Chaos gods manipulated Horus, and then Horus helped manipulate all 8 other Primarchs to lead this giant coup
So there's a
directly
lot
on
of
the
middle
Emperor on Earth.
management.
And they fucked up shit. After this huge civil war,
Okay.
Horus died, but not before brutally wounding the Emperor. And right at the end of his life, they put the Emperor on this large golden throne on Earth, in which he is now alive, just barely, but slowly rotting away, powering something called the Astronomicon, so long as he stays alive, and is fed 1,000 people a day. The Astronomicon is like the North Star. If you want to do interstellar travel in 40k, you need to pass through that demonic warp I mentioned earlier. But how do you know where you're going? Well, the Emperor is there putting a nice little navigator right there. He helps go through there and pop your way out. It's like doing
So they keep
nether
this
travel
dude barely
in Minecraft,
alive
so you
for their
can
own
shorten the
purposes
distance
of
between going to
navigation,
areas.
of
So long
powering
as
this
the
stuff?
Emperor is alive and being fed 1,000 people a day to stay alive, you can do that. The moment he dies, interstellar travel's gone for all of humanity.
Could they not
You're so
find a
boned.
workaround
Now, since the
in
Horus
the
Heresy
next
10,000 years ago,
10,000
the
years?
Imperium has fallen from grace substantially. All technology has started to dwindle and die. There is now giant
Apparently
fundamental
not.
religious
They're
extremists
spending too much
that
time
now
finding
believe the
1,000
Emperor of
souls a day.
mankind was a deity, a true living god, which is probably the last thing the Emperor would have wanted to be remembered for. So now
Seems
you
like a
have this
swell
thing
guy
called
before.
the Ecclesiarchy, which is this giant church entirely devoted to spreading the good word of the Emperor. He is now the Holy Emperor God,
This creepy
the God
half
Emperor
zombie?
of mankind, and all of the Imperium has taken up worshiping him to the fullest extent and killing anything that isn't humanity in his name. The Imperium has this futuristic Gothic tone to it and a hefty religious zealotry to them. If you think anything against the Emperor, that's heresy and you deserve to die. That is
Paladins,
called
but
being
evil?
a heretic. So right now, everyone in humanity is trying to expand their empire across the stars. If you are a heretic, someone who doesn't believe in the Emperor, you are deserving of death. If you believe in the Chaos Gods, you are also a heretic and you deserve death. If you are an alien race of any kind, you are a filthy Xenos and you deserve death as well. So long as the murder continues and humanity expands, the Imperium of Man is very, very happy. However, the largest fighting force of this Imperium is my personal favorite faction, and the first faction we will discuss, the Astra Militarum, or also known as the Imperial Guard.
Pretty shit now, man.
Huh? Aren't they still people?
Man, game over, man.
The Imperial Guard is the main fighting force of the Imperium, and in a world of horrifying creatures, galactic monstrosities, the literal demons themselves breaking through the fabric of time to kill you, the Imperial Guard are untold billions of regular men and women wearing modern day like flak armor with a laser rifle. This is the humble las gun, the main weapon of the Imperial Guard. It fires superheated plasma lasers and extremely fast fire rate. It is reliable
with a
never
laser
jams.
gun.
It
is
can
what you're
blow
saying.
off limbs, giant holes in concrete.
Conveniently
it is
in
overall
tanks.
an extremely devastating weapon in modern day. It is one of the weakest in the 40K universe. Yeah, a laser rifle that never jams, it could blow off limbs, one of the weakest weapons. That's the world we're in right now. But who cares? Because the Imperial Guard has, in each battle, 500,000 of these men and women. 30,000 large armored tanks, 10,000 artillery batteries. The Imperial Guard wins through sheer numbers and firepower. They kind of have this World War I, World War II style aesthetic with legions of guardsmen as well as high company commanders and generals on the field along with them, and multiple kinds of troops. Hundreds of thousands of guardsmen, a sea of guardsmen surges forward, firing and charging at everything possible while the planet rumbles as tanks roll up behind them. Gunships block out the sun and tanks block out the dirt
of their own men die first in this war?
It is through numbers and sheer sundering firepower. They are the first and last line of defense for the Imperium and make up a huge bulk of the battles. The Imperial Guard is also made up of tons of different kinds of regiments. The Catachin jungle fighters live in a death world that's more hospitable than almost any firefight they'll ever get into. So they just have this steroid-looking, giant knife, Rambo Predator-looking sons of bitches, where nothing is anywhere near as scary as a simple knight on their home planet. You have the Valhallan winter soldiers who haven't felt their toes in 300 years, the Mordian Iron Guard who are more interested in making their shoes shine than actually fighting a battle, and then of course the big one, the Cadians, from the biggest export of guardsmen in the entirety of the Imperium. You will fire your first gun at 5. You will disassemble and reassemble it at 10. You will have pounding artillery drills day in and day out at 15. And you'll fight your first Swarm Lord at 16. And if you mention Cadia, you will burst into an unrelenting amount of tears and sadness like I do daily. To quote, the Imperial Guard are my personal favorite faction in 40K. They're the army I collect the most, the ones I enjoy playing the most, and the one I enjoy in the lore sense a lot. There's something about just a regular man with a laser rifle being told to charge the horrors of this universe and willingly doing so for his god emperor. It's just poetic. They actually represent the main Imperial Guard tactics pretty well. Large amounts of artillery that doesn't require a line of sight, lots of tanks, tons of infantry, drop troops, and gunships. Overall, they're pretty similar to how they sound, though a little bit expensive to collect, unfortunately. And they don't hit a lot. They have a bit of a bad aim, but you don't really care because you're just drowning them in shots. However, if you want more accurate fire and specialization, we can move on to talk about Spetsmarines. The Angels of Death are up next. Space Marines are genetically engineered super soldiers and superhumans. They're given extra organs.
Marines?
Their skin tissue is toughened. Their bones are stronger. They're taller than the average person. They're pretty massive people. And these are the specialized super soldiers that carry out a lot of the more specific tasks for the Imperium. And there's tons of legions of them. In fact, there's one per Primarch. Each Primarch, the Emperor's son, as I mentioned before, oversees their legion of Space Marines. The genetic upgrade they get is based on the genes of said Primarch. It's something called a gene seed. That's what brings them up to this like superhuman level. There's a whole bunch of other side sections that are also extremely interesting and have a little bit more of a twist on the average Space Marines, which we will discuss in a bit.
I like how they're
I don't have a whole lot
color-coded.
to say about Space Marines. They're
Like the
superhuman,
Power Ranger
fast, and in
Gundams.
fact, it's been said that nothing that large should move that quick. These men in power armor moving at blazing fast speeds. Their reflexes are faster. Their skin is tougher. They are overall
they
just
using
extremely
stim
powerful
impacts?
soldiers. In fact, where they differ comes down to which Space Marine Legion we're talking about. For instance, the Ultramarines done by Robot Girlman, Gilliman, are the main blue boys. Strong in almost every way, the jack of all trades kind of group that are a little bit too strong, and that's a lore problem, but the White Scars by Jagatai Khan are all about speed freaks, go fast. We're talking attack
Wait, what? They
bikes,
cannot
we're talking
reproduce?
lance,
They get two gene seeds to make
buzzsaws.
more if they die?
With the speed of buzzsaws.
This is all like genetics? Eugenics? To make better Space
Fuck you,
Marines?
Pale King. Salamanders love fire.
Do we have
Fire
the
in the
fire
forge,
emblem,
fire in
like,
battle.
ship
Flamers,
them?
Melta-guns, multi-meltas.
So
Just
we're
so
like,
long as something can be
we
burning,
want someone really
that's
fast,
big.
and then
they're
we want
also
this,
actually
like,
some of the nicest
fire
of the Space
person.
Marines.
We
A lot
gotta
of Space Marines
pair a
have this
green
kind of
with
like
another
holier
color.
than thou thing because of their genetic strength. However, the Salamanders tend to put human lives above the lives of themselves, which is actually rather rare. They're also all black, but not like just regular black, like 2 a.m. line at a White Castle black. Like they have a charcoal, dark, ashy exterior and blazing red eyes. Apparently something about
How do
living on
they
their home planet of
get like
Nocturne,
that?
which I don't know if that makes much sense, but who cares? This is like fantasy land anyway. Overall, Salamanders are actually one of my personal favorite legions
Are they,
because
like,
they're just really cool.
humanoid,
They're
not
fun
actually
to play as
human?
because of all their flamer weapons, and they have a nice, like, more heartwarming lore as opposed to being super evil like everyone else is. Oh my god, we're not even a quarter of the way through the Space Marine Legions. Imperial Fists believe in the power of the siege
They're
and defensive
augmented
positions.
humans.
Raven Guards, master of stealth and
But they come from,
sabotage
like,
while having bird helmets. Iron Hands, masters of
colonized
machines
kinda,
and
like,
vehicles while being really
places
goddamn
around
good
the
at being sold on
universe?
eBay after one nerf. Space Wolves, Vikings,
Space
and
wolves?
wolves, and tons of wolves, and
Wolves,
axes, battle
Vikings.
axes, fur everywhere. Space Wolves,
Men that like Vikings and haven't gotten over
Blood
it.
Angels, the genetic defect to make them want to drink blood and go crazy. Called the Red
Vampires.
Thirst. They have Cupid wings and stuff.
Men that
so
haven't gotten over
strange, and
vampires
they're
but
all
wanted mecha.
Super gay for Sanguinius. Dark Angels are old school knights and inner circle
Yay!
thieves.
This is
and
actually Castlevania.
Death Watch, a fancy pantsy
What?
anti-Xenos group that nobody plays because Death Watch, and they look cool though, but no one plays them. I
That
don't
looks
know
like
about
Reaper.
Death Watch. They're there though. Black Templars, for the people who, if you
Templar.
haven't prayed at least 3 times a day, you're gonna start praying out that airlock, and I'm sure there's some other chapters I may have missed as well, like Crimson Fists and stuff, but those are the main ones right here. Here, quote,
Emperor
from
had
the
20
Emperor
sons and their
himself.
genes were all.
They shall be my finest warriors.
They're, like,
These
all
men who
cloned
give of
after them,
themselves to
sort
me.
of, I
Like
guess.
clay, I shall mold
guess
them, and
maybe
in the
not
furnace
cloned.
of
Maybe
war
just
I shall forge them. They
genetically
shall be of
produced.
iron will and steely sinew. In great armor
Some
I
Space
shall
Marines have
clad
home
them,
planets,
and with
some
the
planets were
mightiest weapons
destroyed.
shall they be armed. They will be
What?
untouched
Only
by
10%
plague or
survived the
disease.
process
No sickness
of
shall blight them.
augmentation?
They shall have such tactics, strategies, and machines that no foe
So they
will
never
best
get
them in
sick.
battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are my defenders
very
of
smart.
humanity. They are my Space Marines, and they shall know no fear. And on the tabletop, they fuck. Oh, they fuck hard. As of making this
No, they
video,
actually
Space
don't
Marines
if they
are
can't
laughably
reproduce.
strong. That might change at some point, but overall, Space Marines just have it's like a Swiss Army knife, a tool for anything you need, except it's like a gold-plated
So they're
Swiss
all
Army
like
knife. It
Captain
is
America,
extremely strong.
but, like,
if you are actually getting into the tabletop of
it, like,
Warhammer,
hulkifies
Space Marines
them
are
half of
great
half of their body.
Also, whatever gameplay style you have, whether you want to be sit back with long range and heavy weaponry, go fast and run in, or even just full melee, all of these options are totally there for you. Space Marines are super badass, but unfortunately, it's time we start praying to our new god, the 2011 Honda Civic.
So is it any wonder people are afraid of technology?
Technology!
The Adeptus Mechanicus. The Adeptus Mechanicus are a technophile cult on Mars. Now, these people are a little bit weird because they don't actually really believe in the Emperor of Mankind. And you might think, oh, whoa, Berkey, that sounds like some heresy. A little bit. They believe in the Emperor. They believe in his
little
power,
bit as a treat.
but they don't pray to him. They pray to something called the Omnissiah. And the Omnissiah is this kind of machine god that they believe permeates in all machines. And if you think, well, wait a minute, they believe in a different god as well? That sounds like super heresy. Well, yes-ish, but they also make all your
But
guns.
it's okay.
And they make all your tanks.
Ooh,
And
so
they
if you're an
make
armed dealer,
everything
you're
that you
allowed a
have.
little heresy. You get a pass.
So you can't really tell them to fuck off because you're not gonna win nothing if you don't got stuff to shoot people with. See, their Omnissiah at least makes sense from their standpoint. They believe it to be a deity that permeates through all machines. Your Honda Civic, your standard bolt
You know
gun,
what?
your
I wonder
Dune
why
Strider
more
Walker, your giant
media
mechs,
doesn't have, like,
your
a
huge ships.
god
The
of
Omnissiah is
technology.
present through
That does
all.
make sense,
and the
right?
only reason your stuff works
Because, like, people
is
think, like,
because
oh,
the
magic comes from a
machine
god.
spirit in it
What about
says
technology?
it works. If you want your gun to work, your tank to run, you must pray to it. And I mean
Makes sense.
full stop. You need to start chanting in high Gothic.
I also don't know
You
how
need to
planes
burn
work sometimes, and I
incense.
pray
You
it
need
works
to
every
sit on your
time.
knees and pray to that car. You need to rub oil on
And
your
nowadays,
robe,
Teslas
and
have
you
their
need to
own,
go,
like,
"Humana,
minds."
humana. Full stop. If you want your damn thing to work, if you want your gun to fire, you need to do that. They are very bizarre, and they actually have a bit of a point because it's obviously working. And if you look at them, I don't know how that works. So they obviously know something about what they're doing. The most notable member of the Adeptus Mechanicus
They
is
look kinda
Arch
cool and
Meiges,
freaky.
Majos, whatever. Belisarius Call. Look at this dude. Look at this dude. Yeah. This is the group we're talking about. These are these weirdos. Here. The
Weirdos?
Omnissiah
Have you seen the rest of the races?
The credo, Omnissiah. There is no truth in flesh, only betrayal. There is no strength in flesh, only weakness. There is no constancy
Flesh
in
is
flesh,
weak.
only decay. There is no certainty in flesh, but death. Flesh is weakness. Flesh is death.
Embrace
The
your
Omnissiah is the
android
god of the
overseers.
machines, and if you wish to be whole,
Welcome
if you
your
wish to be
robot
holy, if you wish
overlords.
to give unto him, you must saw down your limbs and remove your organs and replace them
Whoa.
with mechanical parts, because that is
Whoa,
what
whoa,
he
whoa,
wants,
whoa.
and that is how you will become enlightened.
Now that's a little
Hard
extreme.
technophiles mixed with religious extremism. That is Mechanicus.
Can I at least
Now,
sell
for
them
their
on the
army
black
side of
market?
things, they are with the Scutari. The Scutari operate with very bizarre weaponry and lots of different kinds of vehicles, tanks, and different people in between. They're very weird, but they have extremely wacky and enjoyable, and in fact quite effective both in the real game and in the lore, weaponry and gear. Overall, as an army on the tabletop, they're very weird and have a whole bunch of different shenanigans, but if you like
I
that
can't even
quirky,
make a
wacky
sense of
techno
that. Like, where's
thing,
the head?
I'd give them a pickup.
How many
Hell,
legs is
they're
going
so
on?
paranoidly, I gotta keep going. They're so paranoid and crazy. These Dune Striders you see right here, one guy was able to make them work. One guy, and he died. And they're so scared they'll never work again that they keep them on and they never turn them off.
Okay,
and they
mood.
run around in a circle the whole time
Mood.
until they need them, and then they corral it and they go into battle.
Me when I never update my
Adeptus
OBS.
Mechanicus. Now, if you want to talk about faith, though, let's talk about the Sisters of Battle.
Ooh, I'm a sister. I battle.
The Sisters of Battle of the Adeptus Sororitas, if that's how I pronounce it correctly, is an all-female group of battle sisters
the armor is showing off her
going through
thighs.
the ecclesiarchy section of the Imperium. The ecclesiarchy is, of course, the church. This is, imagine a private army of the church.
Why does it always have to be the church?
Scary. And it is. The sisters are an extremely zealotous force.
Okay, I don't know
they
about
take this
that
to a
part.
full extreme. They believe in
no
three
body
main
mutilation,
things:
please.
faith, martyrdom, and fire. Through the bolter, the flamer, and the melta, the Sisters of Battle are extremely potent at taking out chaos and heretics. Mainly heretics, because as they are a fighting section of the ecclesiarchy church, that's the big thing they want to kill. Any form of heretic will face the Emperor's justice through those three main weapons, the bolter, the flamer, and the melta, and they will do so with extreme prejudice.
Extreme prejudice. They will
have
discriminate
to nuns
against
in
you.
space. And I'm talking hardcore nuns. They carry holy fire on their backs. They have holy books and sigils all across their armor. Their main battle tank
Are you sure
is a
it's holy
fucking
fire? I feel
pipe
like any
organ
fire is
missile
quite
launcher.
effective.
They have small babies that they have removed their brain capacity to make them little servant cherubs to fly around and give them ammunition and shit. They drop churches
think we're
from
the
low
baddies.
orbit as mini drop pods onto battles.
I think
they
as soon
drop
as you carve out brains of babies,
into
you're the
battles,
baddies.
and they blare war hymns and holy music from their frigates in low atmosphere and
That's
shower
pretty funny,
holy
though.
water across the battlefield.
I think that's
These
pretty
are the
funny.
people
That's like
you are
Macross.
dealing with, and
It's just,
they're
like, blasting
fucking
music.
awesome. They can literally stave off demons.
Steve
on
off?
the
Wait,
tabletop
actually?
because their faith is that strong.
Oh.
Remember the warp, the demons from the warp? Well, the warp also manifests in your mind. All of your emotions,
Oh, so they can't get
negative and positive,
brainwashed.
go through
They're
the warp.
already
It's the
brainwashed.
immaterium, the place
You can't
of
do it
all
twice.
things. So if you are that mentally fortified, that mentally strong,
Or
you
that
can
mentally
stave
ill.
off horrifying
They have a
demons.
different type of
And all
illness,
these
you know?
girls, not a crack. Not a crack
Can't
in
break
that
what's
mental
already
armor.
broken.
Now, as much as a meme as they are, and as much as their models look a lot like Ongo Gabloglian, yeah, which I can't unsee anymore, I gotta say, I love their design. I think they're extremely cool.
Okay, their design
They're
is
another
pretty
army
cool.
that I'm currently collecting. They just released a whole new line of figures very recently, and they look wonderful. Everything from Celestine, the living,
Wow.
literally undying saint.
They created
from the
wings for
triumph of
themselves.
Saint Catherine, which is literally a funeral procession as a model. Those organ tanks
This is
I
like
mentioned
Joan of
earlier.
Arc, but she goes
this shit is
feral.
the most over-the-top badassery in a lot of the Warhammer universe, and goddamn it, is it over the top? But Sisters of Battle
Like
are
if
so
Mad
cool.
Max was,
While
like,
I'm a guardsman at heart,
religious.
this is such a cool faction. And speaking of burning demons,
I can see! I can fight!
the Grey Knights are the first army I actually collected back in 7th edition. The Grey Knights are a super secretive and much more old school look at power armored knights. Except they are all
Transformers.
psychics. All of them have that
Transformers.
crazy space
Knights in the
magic
skies.
magician shit. For every 100,000 guardsmen, there's one Grey Knight. For every 10,000 Sisters of Battle, there's one Grey Knight. For every 1,000 Space Marines,
Why does
there's
he look like
one
Colossus
Grey Knight.
Fighter from
Grey Knights
Yu-Gi-Oh?
are the strongest of the strong, both in mental will and absolute just strength. These are Space Marines that are all high-level psychers, all of them able to specifically do one goal, and that is kill demons. The Emperor believed that the demons of chaos were the #1 threat to the Imperium, and he probably is right. However, this group is entirely based on doing that through a myriad of tactics. Coming from the planet, or I guess the moon of Titan in the Sol system, the Grey Knights are thrown through extremely rigorous training and are as clear of mind and soul as they possibly can be. Since the demons of the warp are the warp and your mind projects to the warp, people can go insane very fast, especially lower level psychers. These Grey Knights need to be able to harness the warp in the presence of demons and stay perfectly sane. One of their characters, one of my favorite characters, is named Castellan Crow. He has a demon blade, the black blade of Mahamahama, and he has to have it on him because it tempts everyone nearby, constantly beckoning them. Use my power.
So it's like everybody has like a ring from Lord of the Rings.
Whatever the possibility. And so he has to keep it on him all the time as this thing whispers to him consistently, and he has to stave it off forever, being alone in his chambers or on the battlefield, because anyone who gets too close to it might be tempted a little too hard. He is that pure of heart and mind, and all the characters in the Grey Knights are basically like that. The only issue is that Grey Knights have a scorched earth policy, more ways than one. If they're fighting demons, demons corrupt and make people crazy. So if I'm a guardsman and I'm fighting demons, and the Grey Knights arrive, and they kill all the demons.
Wait, what?
I'm a risk.
The reviewers anime.
And so, guess who's not making it out of there? I am the hammer. I am the mail about his fist. I am the spear in his hand. Though
I'm
we
a
are
little
lost,
confused
I
about
am the
this
shield on
one.
his arm. I am the flight of his arrows. I am the hammer. I am the sword. I am the
They
shield.
still fight
I am
for
the
the
soldier at the
church,
battle at
but they're
the
not
end
like the
of time.
sisters.
Grey Knights
They're
are
just
pretty
like
hardcore.
fast, tanky
they are
guys.
as holy as you can get for a Space Marine. If you like Space
they
Marines,
use, like-
and you want to, that they're holy enough. You want to be holier. Grey
They're
Knights.
still like
And you want to be
paladins,
holier
I
and
guess, but they
be
use
good.
their
Let's talk
mind.
Imperial Knights.
Because they use psyche or whatever,
Do you
right?
like
So it's like
gigantic
magic,
walkers the size of homes or medium-sized buildings? Do you want to kill
Psychic
heretics,
Space
but do you want to
Marines.
kill like 40 of them per turn? Do you want a gigantic old-school knight noble house style of walkers with giant chainsaw arms? Then you got Imperial Knights.
is this the
Imperial Knights,
Transformers
don't
one
know how to
actually?
talk about them because they're just gigantic walkers, but they have this old
kinda look like
school
Bionicles.
like house feel to them, like literally like they're houses. Each Imperial Knight comes
Except
from
the
a
top
house,
looks like,
and each of them act in their own special
like a turtle.
way. These behemoth of walkers also destroy almost everything in their path, killing full swaths
Whoa.
of squads in a couple shots, stepping on legions of troops. Like, these things do not mess around, and they look so cool. Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights, actually, for that matter, don't have a whole lot to discuss.
the
They're
mech
just
knights.
super big, heavy walkers, and they look different depending on your house or chaos god you currently believe in. And overall, these things are just really cool if you want to murder everything in your path. They're the big, scary, big unit of Warhammer, and if you want to collect them, go to town. They make for a great.
I like how he doesn't
painting
explain
project,
any
too. Game
further.
back down
He's
to
just like,
earth,
they just look
fleshing out a
cool.
little bit,
And
bit
people
different,
collect
a little
them.
more
You know what? Fair.
gold.
I've already sold. Like,
If
no, go back to
guardsmen
that
are
one.
regular soldiers. Space Marines are super soldiers. Grey Knights are super soldiers. The Adeptus Custodes are super soldiers cubed. The Adeptus Custodes are the third major army.
is everyone- isn't everybody a super soldier?
I know. I got
Who
carried
is
away,
that super
okay, but
soldier?
That's all. I only have 3. Okay. They are our final brand of Space Marines, but these ones are super special. Okay,
They're
if
full?
a guardsman is 6 foot, a Space Marine is 7 feet, a custodian is 8 feet. These are the giant defenders of Holy Terra, which is also Earth. Earth is Terra. Earth, Terra.
These are 8 feet?
Themselves.
I thought-
These are the people that literally guard the Emperor's throne room. Hence, Custodes.
thought
These
the
boys
first guys were
protect the
also really
Emperor's
big.
throne room at all times and are literally like handcrafted people. They're not humans brought up by a gene seer or something. These are all handcrafted super soldiers. I think from a tube.
Like handmade?
These behemoth of men are like 8 feet, 8.5 feet tall, and functionally immortal. They stand still, spear in hand, for hundreds of years without the need to sleep and barely even the need to eat, watching over the throne room
Are they like
and every
golems?
other area of Holy Terra for their
So you, like,
entire
build
purpose in
them?
life. And oh my lord, are they terrifying. These custodians put Space Marines to shame. If you liked your super soldiers, these are your super mega soldiers. One of these men can take on probably 3 Space Marines and most likely win. There are many different groups of custodians as well, like the Solar Watch, or there's also one of my personal favorite, the Aquilin Shield. The Aquilin Shield go out to seemingly unimportant individuals
like being
and
made into
them,
a space or born into a Space Marine, and you're like, hell yeah, I'm pretty cool. And then you meet this guy.
Gets the protection of this giant 8.5-foot tall golden god, because that guardsman will end up becoming a general one day or something of that nature. These people are pretty horrifying,
Quality over
both on the
quantity.
tabletop as well as in the lore. There are very few of them, however.
Whoa.
There's actually an extremely small amount of them.
Okay, the
But that's
detail is
kind of
pretty
the point.
cool.
There's only so many of these people that
looks
can
like
have war gear this
sort
strong,
of like
weapons this powerful, and
charge blade.
training this good. And the custodians have all 3 of it. The custodians are the top dogs of the Imperium, and they hurt just that same way. Though I do want to discuss a little bit about the Sisters of Silence before we get out of here, because the Sisters of Silence I also have a few of, and they're really fun, but they don't get enough attention. These
Probably because they're
kinda bald
silent.
plume ladies are a whole group of pariahs, are also known as blanks. We'll be referring to them as blanks from now on. So as every mind is somewhat connected to the warp, these blanks are a genetic mutation that has it suppressed heavily. Because of that mind suppression, normal people feel this weird, like, uncomfortable nature when around them. When a Sister of Silence walks past them, you feel ill. You feel just uncomfortable and strange. So most of them don't actually live past childhood, because once they are birthed, they're, well, you know, killed or something at a very young age, because they just emit a horrifying aura. These ladies, however, are guardians of the throne as well for more psychic threats. See, none of the custodians are psychers, so they have a difficult time dealing with major demons and other kinds of psychic phenomena. These sisters are extremely specialized in it, all of them taking a vow of silence as they don't speak, hence the term Sisters of Silence, but they communicate through hand gestures and things of that nature. But if there's a demon issue, if there's any kind of warp-based problem, the sisters are extremely adept at dealing with them, thanks to their blank gene. They normally work a lot of time with the custodians because they have to deal with both kinds of threats, but they're not represented
just
that way on the
really
tabletop.
resistant
In fact, they only have like one
to
real
magic?
model for them, which is very unfortunate. I hope they'll get some like news soon, because I think they should really be working together as it is that way in the lore, but hopefully we'll get there soon. But if we're talking about blanks, let's talk assassins.
Assassins.
It's been a long video. We're about to round it out. We got this and one more human thing, and then we're done. The assassins, though, the
my God.
Officio Assassinorum,
We got through a lot of this.
Oh boy, these people are deadly. Yeah, they're called assassins. They shouldn't be.
This looks
but-
like it's from another video game.
These people will mess you up. So these are from the Officio Assassinorum, a very special organization, and they are handpicked by the Grand Master of the Officio Assassinorum from the, what was it called?
Mood.
Progenium. It's basically an orphan school. Your parents got murdered
Orphan
by demons or
school?
something. You get sent to this, and you get trained to be whatever.
Welcome.
Tempestus
Did your
Dark Troop,
parents
an
die
Inquisitor, maybe
recently?
even, maybe you get
Batman
a
wasn't
blank
there to
gene,
pick
and
you
get thrown
up?
to the Sisters of Silence,
We
or
got you.
sometimes
You can
you just
murder
disappear. When you are taken,
people.
however, you go to one of 4 temples, because the Assassinorum works in a temple style of things. These temples are the Vindicare, Caluxus, Calidus,
cannot
and
believe he
Eversor temples. Let's
learned
start with
all
the
this
Vindicare.
and can
I'm
pronounce
far
all
away.
this.
I've been sitting here for 3 weeks. Poof! The Vindicare Temple is the main sniper-based temple. Gigantic sniper rifles for all these assassins. Their
Can he
whole
hit a
point is to
95%
be able
chance
to be in a spot and
against
sit
an
there,
alien is what I want to
eye
know.
and scope for weeks, waiting for their perfect target, taking people out from literal miles away after extremely long time periods. The Vindicare Temple is about precise, perfect aim. There have been reports of Vindicares being able to single out particular body parts from over 2-3 miles away. Temples in the head, the jugular, for instance, and been sitting there after weeks. And when they're ready, take that shot, time is done.
And yet my
Packs him up.
ex-con
The
sniper
Calidus
can't hit
temple,
a
however,
still targeted
is
in
a lot
front
more
of
about
him.
shape-shifting and deviant art. It's mostly a female-based one, or
Shape-shifting.
at least it seems to be, and this allows a lot of body augmentation for certain individuals to be able to kind of transmorph themselves and infiltrate areas that are problems. These are all completely about deception, mind tricks, polymorphing, and everything in between. And lots of drawings. Lots of drawings. The Eversor Temple.
Yeah, I guess there aren't that many
Kinda
women.
disturbing one. The Eversor Temple is about when you don't want anything to come back alive, friend or foe. You want it all dead. An Eversor is psychogenically
I mean,
conditioned
when they
with
say
just
body
psychotherapy
morphing,
and psychological
is that
torture
natural?
to only feel violence, hatred, and anger. It does the Clockwork
Do you
Orange
really-
style
do
thing
you
of just
really
making
need
you
to
forced
program
to
someone
watch
to only feel
never-ending pain and
hatred
misery
and anger?
psycho
I feel like everyone
I guess is
is
the
born
term.
naturally
And
in
then
this
they
world
pump
with
you
it.
full of tons of psychedelic drugs, and they
Well-
cryo freeze you.
Oh,
And then they drop you in an area where they just want to make sure everything is dead.
Winter
And then you
Soldier.
defrost, full of just all this insane, mind-boggling psychotherapy and psychedelic drugs. And you just go to town. Finally, there's the most bizarre temple, the Caluxus Temple. The Caluxus assassins are feared even among the other temples.
You
that
look a little
blank gene,
freaky.
the people will go to the Caluxus Temple
Ooh.
with this as well.
You look very
and
freaky.
This is where they can harness that to be massively anti-psyker or even just anti-regular people. They're seen with
Anti-regular
extreme
people.
fear
Usually works.
and distrust among many, many people. They are described by the Eldar by quote as being pure evil. Imagine that
Pure
uncomfortable
evil.
feeling from that blank gene I mentioned, and then imagine them being taught and given equipment to amplify it by 100. If normally regular people feel uncomfortable, now they are basically akin to being a siren wailing directly in your ear. And if you're a psyker,
no, that's a
oh no,
banshee.
the sheer presence of a Caluxus assassin
just, like,
is enough for you to
shriek
tear
fear
your skin off. You
around
will rather
them.
gouge your eyes out and rip your nails off than even being near this person. The Caluxus assassin is when you want psychers to
You're so
literally lose their
terrifying.
minds, and they will go on
I
their
am
knees
losing
and
my
ask you
mind.
to gun them down because it is a suitable choice over being anywhere near you. The motto of that temple is, "That which is unknown and unseen commands the greatest fear." Now, for the tabletop, assassins aren't that special. You can call them in no matter what Imperium faction you are, and they do a lot of work for themselves, but at the same time, they're very specialized and require a lot
They're
of
like
finesse.
mercenaries?
And they work the way you generally want them to, though. You want to cause some distortion and weird stuff, you take a Calidus. You want to just murder swaths of infantry and then blow up Eversor. You want to kill that one guy, Vindicare, and if you have a lot of Psychers, Caluxus. It's a nice little, like, jack of all trades if you have a specific thing you want to kill. And you get to choose which is really fun.
You get to
But now,
choose.
let's talk about the last human faction. We can
Would
round
you
this
like to
video
do
out
this
before we
the
do part two.
chaotic way or the secretive way?
Inquisition. And we have a lot to talk about with them.
Inquisition? I feel like
Oh, boy.
everyone has been acting as an
Where do I
Inquisition
even
so
begin with
far.
the Inquisition? Take every secret police you can think of. The KGB, the Gestapo, the CIA, FBI.
The
any
sisters
of
you just
these kinds of
mentioned
people.
earlier? I guess they
And
weren't that
then
secret.
Mark it up by about 10 and give them the most power in the entire Imperium. The Inquisition goes around like the secret police or like detectives to find issues in the Imperium. And they have different ordos depending on
Find
which one we're talking about.
issues?
The
Really
Ordo
just looking for
Hereticus,
them.
the Ordo Xenos, the Ordo Malleus, for instance, and a whole bunch of other ones. Hereticus is obvious, they deal with heretics. Xenos tries to find alien threats, and Malleus is demons. They all have different specializations in what they're trying to go for as this Inquisitor. And that's what they're called, Inquisitors. Each of them, as an Inquisitor,
sorry,
has their own
but
free reign.
I don't
to
think
do
I would
as
ever
they
want to
wish.
be a
They may have
demon
ship
or
and
an
a crew,
alien in
and
this
they go out to
society.
find problems and interrogate people a lot. They are above the law in every department over Space Marines. Now, the Space Marines might argue against them and stuff, and there might be a lot of blowback, but technically they are above them as Inquisitors. They are looking to investigate and figure out coups and cults and demonic incursions and possible Xenos issues like gene stealers or a new threat coming into an area.
I'm just gonna assume there's witch burning every single day of their lives.
They're pretty good at it. The Inquisition having all of this power does make them a little bit power hungry and frantic sometimes. And yes, it is still a bad thing, but most of them are pretty good at their job. And they spend a lot of time being very diligent to make sure that all of these leads they follow are proper and correct. They're basically space detectives with just enormous power and sometimes a bit of a power complex. And we haven't even talked about Exterminatus yet. Exterminatus is deeming a planet unfit to be saved. I deem that this planet is demon infested and taking it back will cost too many resources and is not worth it. I have now committed Exterminatus on this planet. I will now sign the death warrant
just get
of
a
an
Death
entire
Star
Imperium
all the time?
planet, as it is unfit to take and
Just
better
blow
to
it
be
all up?
destroyed than allow the enemy to hold it. This can mean saturation bombardment. This can mean cracking the planet's core and breaking it apart. Doesn't matter. Render this planet inhospitable to all life.
Nuke it.
The
Nuke it all.
innocence proves nothing people are the only people who can choose this planet must die in its entirety. Yeah. You're playing the villain.
Oh, that is
Now,
the
it just
opposite
means
of
a lot,
terraforming.
but most Inquisitors are very rare to do Exterminatus. Exterminatus is a very crazy thing. There's only so many worlds that you don't want to destroy all of them.
Bombs?
Now, naturally, with the memes aside, there are some people who are a little bit rough on this one. But most Inquisitors generally don't like to do Exterminatus a ton, but it is an option they have. And it's a crazy option when you think about it. Secret Police Inquisition are unfortunately not represented on the tabletop very much. You generally kind of put one in your army if you feel like it. You have a couple special options there and some side content, but they're not really fleshed out very well, and personally they need a lot more stuff put in there, and they really need a lot more effort put into them, and they're not quite where I want them to be. Overall, the Inquisition makes for a lot of the best storytelling as well, because it's a little bit hard to talk about a big story of a whole bunch of space marines killing something, right? It's just a big battle story. It's not as interesting.
Yeah, it's probably pretty easy to make a
intrigue and
detective
that moral
story.
dilemma that an Inquisitor has.
You can just start off a
makes for lot
story with
better
like
media. And honestly, the more people do
like
it, I think
an
it is better,
alien
because
that's
then it adds
pretending to
little more
be a
humanity
human,
to the Warhammer
right?
horrible,
And catches
horrible
on to their
grimdarkness.
suspicion.
And wow, we just finished the humans.
And there was
all right,
forbidden
come back to
love.
part 2.
Just kidding,
when we
there's
talk
probably
about
forbidden
chaos
nuking.
and Xenos, because we got to talk about the 4 Chaos Gods and all the Chaos Marine Legions and the Tau and the Necrons and the Orcs, and oh boy, we got a lot.
There's
I'll
more?
see you in part 2.
There's a part 2! What do you mean? We didn't even talk about demons and aliens yet! Can you be demons and aliens, or are you just always shooting demons and aliens? Are demons and aliens always evil? Are they always discriminated against? Is there no justice for alien lovers? Asking for a friend, not myself.